9-0. That was the Supreme Court's ruling, and that was where the unraveling began. Not in a courtroom, not with a news anchor breaking the story, but with a single lie on national television. The kind that slips out so casually, you almost miss the magnitude of it. Donald Trump sat across from a Fox News host, calm and assertive. "We won that decision, 9-0, he said, the words sliding off his tongue like an afterthought. "It's up to El Salvador now." Except it wasn't. The Supreme Court had ruled unanimously against him. They had ordered the immediate return of Pilar Abrego Garcia to the United States. But Trump told a different story, a story millions heard and believed, until someone checked. Within hours, hashtags erupted across social media. #Garcia Truth trended worldwide. MSNBC producers scrambled. The Senate Judiciary Committee leaked internal memos. Rachel Maddow went silent for 2 hours and then tweeted only one word: confirmed. Behind closed doors, MSNBC executives made a decision. One stage, 2 microphones, no escape. It would be marketed as a policy forum, a national conversation about the future of Social Security. But everyone knew the truth. It was going to be a showdown. A new face had also entered the spotlight. Camilla Voss, an award-winning investigative journalist known for her fearless reporting, had just dropped a bombshell piece linking internal SSA layoffs to private contractors with direct financial ties to Trump Holdings. She was invited to co-moderate the debate, and just like that, the clock started ticking. America wasn't just watching, it was holding its breath. It was raining in Chicago. A cold, steady rain, the kind that seeps through coat seams and into your bones, the kind that makes cities feel ancient. Inside MSNBC's flagship studio, the lights were stark and theatrical. 2 chairs, 1 moderator desk, rows of quiet, bracing tension. The audience was an ocean of folded arms and clenched jaws. Elderly veterans, single mothers, ex-federal employees, and disabled citizens who had stories, lived stories, of what had happened when their lifelines were cut. Rachel Maddow sat still at her desk, flipping through a thin file of notes. To her left, Camilla Voss reviewed her printed emails with red underlines, her brow tight. Then they walked in. To the left, Joe Biden, former president, navy blue suit, tired but alert. He looked like a man who had been waiting for this moment, not for the cameras, but for the chance to finally speak plainly. To the right, Donald Trump, red tie brighter than usual, posture bold, eyes scanning the room like it was a campaign rally. Rachel opened the night. Her voice was steady, journalistic. "Good evening. Tonight, we are joined by 2 former presidents to discuss the future of Social Security, a system that affects over 60 million Americans." But Camilla Voss cut to the truth. "We are also here because a statement was made on national television that does not match the Supreme Court's ruling, and because for millions of Americans, truth is the difference between survival and silence." The camera panned out. Trump leaned forward, lips parting. "It was broken before I got here," he said. "I'm fixing what Biden wrecked. It's called cleaning house." The room shifted. A voice from the front row, not loud but sharp. "Yeah? Bet you'd piss yourself if your check didn't show up." Biden turned his head slowly, just slightly, toward Trump. "You didn't clean the house," he said, his voice low and precise. "You declared war on the foundation of working-class dignity, and tonight, we're going to show America what that really means." The moment Biden said it, working-class dignity, something in the studio shifted. You could feel it. The silence wasn't dead air. It was a shared breath, held tight. Camilla Voss broke it. "Let's talk numbers. According to internal SSA records obtained by this network, Over 7,000 employees were dismissed during your administration, Mr. Trump. That's not streamlining, that's gutting. Trump smiled with practiced disdain. Those were lifetime bureaucrats, career parasites, people that were slowing down the machine. You cut fat, not futures. Rachel leaned in. Yet data from last month shows wait times for disability claims have doubled. Veterans are reporting lost paperwork, missed checks. Biden didn't blink. You want to talk about fat? I'll introduce you to Ruth. The screen behind them lit up. A black and white photo, elderly, kind eyes, oxygen tube. She's 79, lives in Ohio. Last week she waited 4 hours on hold after the SSA website crashed. Her check didn't come. She had to borrow money from her son to buy insulin. That's the cost of your streamlining. Trump scoffed. Fake news. The system works for most people, unless you're too old to remember your password. A few chuckles, not laughs, nervous reflex. Biden turned slightly. The system isn't broken because of Ruth. It's broken because you broke it. You sent 7,000 public servants packing, and you're preparing to cut thousands more. That's not efficient. That's sabotage. Camilla dropped a folder onto her desk. These are internal emails from Trump-appointed SSA executives. Planning cuts to the technology division 6 months before the budget announcement. Trump waved it off. They were preparing to modernize. You call this modernization? Biden asked, raising another sheet. This is a list of canceled accessibility projects. Screen readers for the blind. Live call interpretation for immigrants. Deleted. Gone. The audience stirred again. Rachel's voice returned. We'll be right back. But don't confuse streamlining with sabotage. One makes things faster. The other breaks them on purpose. The moment Biden said it, working-class dignity, something in the studio shifted. You could feel it. The silence wasn't dead air. It was a shared breath, held tight. Camilla Voss broke it. Let's talk numbers. According to internal SSA records obtained by this network, over 7,000 employees were dismissed during your administration, Mr. Trump. That's not streamlining, that's gutting. Trump smiled with practiced disdain. Those were lifetime bureaucrats, career parasites, people that were slowing down the machine. You cut fat, not futures. Rachel leaned in. Yet data from last month shows wait times for disability claims have doubled. Veterans are reporting lost paperwork, missed checks. Biden didn't blink. You want to talk about fat? I'll introduce you to Ruth. The screen behind them lit up. A black and white photo, elderly, kind eyes, oxygen tube. She's 79, lives in Ohio. Last week she waited 4 hours on hold after the SSA website crashed. Her check didn't come. She had to borrow money from her son to buy insulin. That's the cost of your streamlining. Trump scoffed. Fake news. The system works for most people, unless you're too old to remember your password. A few chuckles, not laughs, nervous reflex. Biden turned slightly. The system isn't broken because of Ruth. It's broken because you broke it. You sent 7,000 public servants packing, and you're preparing to cut thousands more. That's not efficient. That's sabotage. Camilla dropped a folder onto her desk. These are internal emails from Trump-appointed SSA executives. Planning cuts to the technology division 6 months before the budget announcement. Trump waved it off. They were preparing to modernize. You call this modernization? Biden asked, raising another sheet. This is a list of canceled accessibility projects. Screen readers for the blind. Live call interpretation for immigrants. Deleted. Gone. The audience stirred again. Rachel's voice returned. We'll be right back. But don't confuse streamlining with sabotage. One makes things faster. The other breaks them on purpose. It wasn't a debate anymore. Not really. It had shifted into something heavier, an autopsy of trust. And Biden, standing in front of the nation, had the scalpel in his hand. Camilla Voss leaned forward. Mr. Trump, We've reviewed communications showing pre-planned cuts to SSA regional offices in states that rely most heavily on disability assistance. Were those political decisions? Trump shrugged, his voice louder now. They were decisions for efficiency. We don't need bloated government waste. The private sector runs better. These aren't spreadsheets, Donald, Biden cut in, voice iron flat. They're people. He raised another paper. This is a letter from a mother in Kentucky. Her son has severe autism. His SSA application has been pending for 6 months longer than the legal limit. That's not efficiency. That's cruelty, Trump scoffed. If the system was already broken, don't blame me for inheriting a mess. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Except the mess is recent. Data shows SSA response times worsened after the cuts, not before. Look, you want to fund dead weight? That's on you, Trump snapped. Biden's reply came instantly. I want to fund decency. I want to live in a country where a disabled vet isn't told, come back when the website works again. Where a cancer patient doesn't lose her benefits because you replaced trained staff with interns. Camilla jumped in. We've also seen internal hiring emails. Your administration replaced SSA's technology division heads with private contractors, some of whom had no previous experience in federal systems. One of them, a campaign donor. Trump grinned. Welcome to the real world. Biden stared at him, unmoved. That's the problem. You think the real world is a boardroom. But this isn't a merger. This is a promise. And you broke it. The room didn't clap. It didn't need to. It listened. Rachel looked up from her notes. Mr. Biden, you've often talked about the soul of the country. Let me ask plainly, what kind of country are we becoming? Biden didn't answer right away. He looked at the audience. We're at a crossroads. One road leads to cruelty dressed up as capitalism. The other leads to compassion supported by policy. And we have to choose. He turned to Trump. You once called Social Security a Ponzi scheme, and you're treating it like one, burning it down to sell off the ashes. Trump leaned into his mic. The numbers don't lie. You want to pretend this system works. It's broke. It's bloated. Camilla held up a chart. Yet under Mr. Biden's administration, claim processing times dropped by 18%. Appeals backlog decreased. That reversed under yours. Trump's jaw tightened. Biden raised his voice, not loud, just firm. This isn't about politics. This is about people who did everything right. They worked. They contributed. They depended on us. And you turned their safety net into a roulette table. Rachel cut in. Mr. Trump, do you believe Social Security is a right or a privilege? Trump shrugged. It's an outdated model. People need to stand on their own. A hush. Biden stepped forward. People do stand on their own, but sometimes the ground shifts. A medical diagnosis, a job lost, a death in the family. That's why we have this system, to catch them before they fall too far. His voice softened. We are the only nation founded on an idea, not a tribe. That idea, that we take care of one another. If we forget that, we're not America anymore. The audience was still. No murmurs, just the weight of memory. Camilla cleared her throat. Let's talk economy. The Trump campaign called Biden's warnings about recession fear-mongering, and yet Rachel raised a folder. The Congressional Budget Office declared a recession 2 weeks ago. Inflation has jumped again. Trump waved his hand. Media spins it. They always do. The economy's fine. Biden stepped in, holding a chart. This is real. Families are skipping meals. Working parents are pulling double shifts. Rents are skyrocketing. You're not just out of touch. You're out of answers. Trump tried to interrupt, but Camilla jumped in. Mr. Trump, 16 Nobel Prize-winning economists signed a joint statement saying your economic plan would increase inflation. The Wall Street Journal agreed. Trump scoffed. They're globalists. Biden shook his head. They're experts. You've got Truth Social. They've got facts. A small ripple of laughter, but Biden didn't smile. You can lie to a microphone, you can lie to your base, but you can't lie to a mother who checks her account and sees nothing. That's not a partisan issue. That's hunger. That's fear. Camilla nodded slowly. This isn't a debate anymore. It's an audit. Rachel looked across the studio. Mr. Trump, what economic evidence can you offer tonight? Trump hesitated. We'll see. And that was the moment. A silence dropped like a hammer. Biden said quietly, That's what scares me. Rachel exhaled. Her next question was quieter. So, what is America to you? Biden didn't speak immediately. When he did, it was not to the moderators, not even to Trump. It was to the room. My father used to say, Joey, all people want is a shot. Just a fair shot. That's the America I believe in, a place where if you work hard, you don't have to beg to be treated with dignity. He looked down, the memory genuine. That's why I fought for Social Security. Not because it's a handout, but because it's a hand up. It says, we see you, we remember you, we value your work. He turned to Trump. You see numbers, I see lives. You see overhead, I see obligation. Trump chuckled. Poetry doesn't pay the bills, Joe. Biden nodded. Neither does cruelty. Camilla lifted a photo. A young woman holding her disabled son. This is Maria. She lost her job, then her benefits, then her home, all in under a year, because the system failed. Rachel looked across the table. We're looking at two versions of America, one where Maria is invisible and one where Maria matters. Biden didn't move. If that's the choice, I know which one I'm fighting for. And for the first time, Trump had no punchline, no comeback, just silence, stretched thin across the room. Rachel's voice cut through it. Up next, what happens when the truth doesn't need to shout? It just shows up and stays. It didn't begin with shouting. It began with a paper. Camilla Voss held it like a blade. Her voice was calm, but the room felt like it was standing on a fault line. For the record, she said, this is the Supreme Court's ruling, not a tweet, not a soundbite, not a campaign ad. She read each word slowly, letting them settle like dust. Abrego Garcia is to be returned to U.S. jurisdiction. Detention and removal in violation of constitutional protection. Ruling unanimous. Gasps, disbelief, then a ripple, a low rising murmur that swelled into stunned awareness. He lied, someone whispered. Trump sat forward. You're twisting the interpretation. Camilla didn't flinch. There's nothing to twist. The ruling is explicit. There is no ambiguity. Rachel added, and yet you said we won that decision 9-0. Trump turned red. That's fake news. Biden leaned forward. You didn't just lie, Donald. You built an entire moment on that lie. You looked Americans in the eye and told them the highest court in the land agreed with you. But the truth, it didn't just disagree. It disqualified you. Trump shook his head. You wouldn't know the truth if it hit you. Biden was still. His voice dropped. You can lie to a camera. You can lie to your followers. But you can't lie to a mother staring at an empty bank account. You can't lie to a veteran whose meds are 2 weeks late. A woman in the front row spoke, not loud, but full of exhausted rage. You lie like you breathe. Trump opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Rachel looked to Camilla. Would you please read the ruling again? Camilla did. No one cheered. No one clapped. Because truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just lands, like a gavel, like thunder, like a clock finally striking the hour. Trump sat back. The red light on his camera blinked. and for the first time all night, he didn't speak. Rachel turned slowly toward the audience, her voice low, steady. Tonight wasn't about points scored, it was about truth revealed. The camera panned wide as a man stood, elderly, his cap worn soft from decades of wear, a Union logo barely visible. He cleared his throat. I've watched a lot of speeches. I've watched Trump. I've watched Biden. But tonight only one of you fought for us. He nodded at Biden. You weren't loud. You weren't perfect. But you showed up with the truth. And that's more than we've gotten in a long time. He looked at Trump. You talked about power, about cuts, about numbers. But my granddaughter just got her first paycheck, and she wants to know if her generation will have anything left. You didn't answer her. Trump looked down. Rachel folded her notes. Camilla leaned back. The storm had passed, but its weight still lingered. Biden stepped forward. This was never about dominating a debate. It was about defending an idea. That in this country we take care of each other. That dignity isn't optional, it's sacred. He paused. Social Security isn't charity, it's a covenant. You pay in, you earn it. And we make a promise to be there when you need it. Trump tried once more. We need to cut where it's bloated. Seniors can still work. Biden's reply was quiet. You don't balance the budget on the backs of motel cleaners while CEOs write off private jets. That's not reform. That's betrayal. He looked toward the camera. So what is America? It's not a brand. It's not a boardroom. It's an idea that we are all created equal and deserve to be treated that way. We've never lived up to it fully, but we've never walked away from it. Until now. A pause. But not anymore. Rachel's voice returned. And that may be the final truth tonight. Endurance isn't loud, it isn't viral, it doesn't trend. But it shows up, and it stays. The screen faded to black. And in living rooms across the country, the questions lingered, not about policy, but about character. Not about optics, but about direction. Because sometimes the loudest moment in democracy is the one when the shouting stops.